Hello and welcome to Crossdressed UK. This audio guide is part of our growing library of supportive resources for crossdressers, partners, and anyone exploring their authentic self. If this is your first time here, you're safe, you're welcome, and you're not alone. Let's begin. Sex and crossdressing. Desire, identity, and expression. Sex and crossdressing are often linked, sometimes by excitement, sometimes by curiosity, and sometimes by confusion. For some people, dressing is purely sensual. For others, it has nothing to do with sex at all. And for many, it sits somewhere in between. This can be one of the most private, misunderstood, and shame-heavy parts of crossdressing. Not because desire is wrong, but because so many people are taught to fear the things they do not fully understand. So in this guide, we are going to talk about sex and cross-dressing without shame, without assumptions, and without trying to put everyone into the same box. You have full permission to define your experience on your own terms. Is cross-dressing always sexual? No. And that is one of the biggest misunderstandings. For some people, cross-dressing is not sexual at all. It may be rooted in identity, comfort, gender expression, emotional release, creativity, or simply feeling more like themselves. For others, cross-dressing is erotic. It may be tied to arousal, fantasy, lingerie, role play, submission, sensuality, or feeling desirable in a different way. Some people start with one experience and shift into another over time. Some feel both at once. Some find that dressing is sexual in private, but calming and ordinary in other moments. There is no single reason people cross-dress, and there is no one right way to feel about it. If it is sexual, does that make it less real? One of the biggest worries people have is, if cross-dressing turns me on, does that mean it is only a fetish? Not necessarily. Arousal does not automatically make your experience shallow, fake, or meaningless. For some people, cross-dressing begins as something sexual and later becomes emotional, comforting, identity-based, or simply part of how they relax. For others, it stays erotic, playful, sensual, or connected to fantasy. And for many people, it moves between those things at different points in life. Sexuality and self-expression are not always neatly separate. Sometimes the things that feel intimate, vulnerable, forbidden, soft, beautiful, or deeply personal, can also feel erotic. That does not make them wrong. It simply means your relationship with cross-dressing may have more than one layer. You're allowed to enjoy the sensual side of dressing without reducing your whole experience to sex. You're also allowed to realize that it means more to you than arousal alone. Both can be true. Why arousal can feel so intense. For some cross-dressers, the sexual side can feel surprisingly powerful, especially in the early stages or after long periods of hiding. That intensity can come from many places. It might be the thrill of finally expressing something you have kept locked away. It might be the excitement of softness, lingerie, perfume, heels, makeup, or feeling desirable in a different way. It might be the release of tension after suppressing this part of yourself for years. Secrecy can also intensify desire. When something is hidden, rushed, forbidden, or tied to guilt, the emotional charge around it can become stronger. That does not mean the desire is bad. It means it has been wrapped in pressure, fear, and longing. Over time, as shame reduces and self-acceptance grows, Many people find the intensity changes. Sometimes dressing becomes calmer. Sometimes it becomes less sexual. Sometimes it remains erotic, but feels less frantic and more balanced. The goal is not to force the sexual side away. The goal is to understand it, respect it, and make sure it sits within your life in a way that feels healthy, honest, and safe. What role does sexuality play? Crossdressing is not a sexual orientation. It is a form of expression. That said, for some people, it may overlap with fetish, fantasy, sensuality, submission, role reversal, bisexual or pansexual curiosity, or the feeling of being softer, more vulnerable, or more desirable than they feel, able to be in male mode. For some, this may include being aroused by seeing, imagining, or experiencing themselves in a feminine role or presentation. For others, sexuality plays very little role at all. What matters most is being honest with yourself about what dressing means to you and finding ways to explore it safely, respectfully, and without shame. You do not have to prove that your cross-dressing is serious enough by removing the sexual parts. And you do not have to call it only sexual if you know there is more going on underneath. When cross-dressing stops, feeling sexual. Some people worry when cross-dressing starts sexually and later becomes something else. You might begin with lingerie, fantasy, or private arousal, then realize that what you really crave is comfort, femininity, confidence, or being seen differently. You might still enjoy the sexual side sometimes, but also find yourself wanting ordinary moments too. Making a cup of tea dressed, watching a film, doing your makeup slowly, sitting quietly, taking a photo you actually like, or simply existing without rushing. That shift can feel confusing. You may wonder if it means you are becoming more serious about gender, or whether your identity is changing. Maybe it is. Maybe it is not. You do not have to force an answer straight away. Sometimes, when shame quietens down, cross-dressing stops being only about release and starts becoming about presence. You are allowed to grow into a different relationship with it. Common struggles around sex and cross-dressing. A lot of people carry private questions about sex and cross-dressing. Am I just a fetishist? Many people worry that arousal makes their experience less valid. It does not. Erotic expression is still expression. Arousal may be part of the story, but it does not have to be the whole story. If I am turned on by dressing, does that make me gay? Not necessarily. Sexual orientation and gender expression are separate. Cross-dressing does not automatically define who you are attracted to. Will my partner judge me? They might struggle at first, especially if this has been hidden, or if they only hear about it in sexual terms. That does not mean the conversation is hopeless. Openness, patience, honesty, and care can make a big difference. Why is the arousal so strong? Suppression and secrecy can intensify desire. When something has been hidden for years, the emotional pressure around it can become enormous. As you become more accepting of yourself, that intensity may become easier to understand and manage. How to talk about it without scaring your partner. Talking to a partner about sex and cross-dressing can feel terrifying, especially if the subject has been hidden or discovered suddenly. The key is not to drop everything on them at once, or make them feel like they are expected to perform a role they never agreed to. Start with honesty, but keep it grounded. You might say, "This is part of me, but I am still working out exactly what it means." For me, some of this has been sexual, but it is not only about sex. I am not asking you to do anything you are uncomfortable with. I want us to talk about this slowly, with honesty and boundaries. I care about how this feels for you too. Try to be clear about what you want. Are you hoping for acceptance, privacy, conversation, to dress around them, to include dressing in intimacy, to stop hiding? Those are different asks. A partner may be more able to respond gently if they understand what you are actually asking for, rather than imagining the worst. And remember, invitation is not pressure. Your partner is allowed to have feelings, questions, limits and time. You are allowed to have needs, hopes, and fears. The healthiest conversations make space for both. For many couples, exploring dressing sexually can eventually become playful, intimate, and bonding. For others, it may remain private, separate, or limited. What matters is that nobody feels forced, tricked, rushed, or ignored. Fantasy, risk, and regret. Arousal can make everything feel urgent. That is why it is worth having a pause rule. If you are feeling highly aroused, lonely, ashamed, or desperate for validation, that may not be the best moment to send photos, arrange a meetup, reveal your face, message someone risky, or make a decision you cannot easily undo. This is not about judging desire. It is about protecting your future self. Before sharing anything intimate, ask yourself, would I still feel okay about this tomorrow? Could this identify me, my home, my workplace, or my family? Am I doing this because I genuinely want to, or because I feel panicked, lonely, or ashamed? Is everyone involved consenting freely? Have we talked clearly about boundaries? Online exploration can feel exciting, affirming, and freeing, but it is still worth moving carefully. Screenshots, saved images, usernames, face photos, location details, and private messages can travel further than you intended. Your desire deserves respect. So does your safety. Consent, boundaries, and safety. Consent should be clear, mutual, ongoing, and freely given. It can also be withdrawn at any time. That matters whether you are talking about sex, photos, role play, online messages, camming, dressing together, or trying something new with a partner. If you are sharing photos, meeting others, or exploring sexually online, give yourself some basic protections. Use anonymous usernames and secure platforms. Avoid posting identifying details unless you are fully ready for that level of openness. Think carefully before sharing your face, home, workplace, car, tattoos, family details, or anything that could connect your private life to your public one. And if you are engaging sexually with others in real life, use safer sex practices and consider confidential sexual health advice or STI testing if you need it. Desire is not shameful, but your well-being still matters. When to seek extra support. Sexuality, fantasy, and cross-dressing are not problems by themselves. but it may be time to seek extra support if this part of your life is causing you distress, damaging your relationship, leading to risky behavior, or making you feel out of control. Support can help if you feel trapped in cycles of secrecy, shame, purging, compulsive behavior, risky online choices, or intense anxiety after dressing. A good therapist, counselor, or sexual health professional should not shame you for cross-dressing. The right support will help you understand your feelings, make safer choices, and build a healthier relationship with this part of yourself. You do not need to be in crisis to ask for help. Sometimes support is simply a way of saying, I want to understand myself better, and I do not want to carry this alone anymore. Sex positivity, without shame. Your desires are not dirty. Cross-dressing is not wrong because it turns you on. And you are not alone, whether your experience is playful, sensual, romantic, submissive, emotional, comforting, or identity-based. Sex and gender expression can be beautifully connected. When explored consciously, cross-dressing can bring deep erotic satisfaction, self-love, confidence, and sometimes even stronger intimacy with a partner. Not because everything has to become sexual, but because honest expression can soften the shame that keeps people separate from themselves and from each other. A final thought. Sex and cross-dressing can feel complicated because they touch so many vulnerable parts of us. Desire, shame, identity, secrecy, intimacy, fear, confidence, and the need to feel wanted. But complicated does not mean wrong. Whether cross-dressing is sexual for you, non-sexual, romantic, comforting, identity-based, playful, or somewhere in between, you deserve to explore it with honesty and care. You are not dirty because something brings you pleasure. You are not less valid because arousal is part of the story. And you are not alone in trying to understand what this all means. With love, high heels, or whichever shoes you choose. Anna and Harry, co-founders of Crossdressed UK.
Thank you for listening. If this guide helped even a little, please remember, every step you take at your own pace matters. At Crossdressed UK, we believe you are valid, you are welcome, and you deserve to feel confident being yourself. Take care of yourself, be gentle, and whenever you're ready, we're here.